Medical repatriation isn't as simple as booking a flight home when you're stuck or sick abroad. In this video, we'll walk you through the real process and what could happen if you're not prepared. What is medical repatriation?
So medical repatriation is essentially the process of transporting individuals who are either ill or injured abroad. Usually in our situations, they're typically in foreign countries, and we're bringing them back to their home destination. Most frequently is here in the United States, but we have the pleasure of bringing people back to anywhere in the world, just depending on where they live. There are multiple modes of medical repatriations. Here at REVA, we typically are fixed wing air ambulance, but there's also a space in which we have rotorcraft. We do not operate them, no. We do have partner providers that do utilize that. And also there are ground transportations as well. So you have ground ambulances, you have fixed wing air ambulance, and you have rotorcraft. Another type of repatriation that is also very common would be commercial medical escorts, which are typically utilized for a more so stable population in which we send typically a paramedic or a nurse, and they can fly anywhere globally on commercial aircraft with the necessary tools and equipment to make sure that we can get a patient from point A to point B safely and make sure that they do not decompensate. This typically tends to be a lower acuity type patient, but doesn't really qualify or need a fixed wing air ambulance. What is the medical repatriation process? The medical repatriation process starts, unfortunately, with an individual becoming injured or ill when they're abroad. At this point in time, this individual is probably in some sort of medical facility, clinical, hospital in a foreign land, far away from home. At this point, the family, the hospital will get in contact with the travel insurance, the insurance company, or if it's a private pay, they will eventually escalate this to an air ambulance company. At this point in time, the air ambulance company will get in contact with whomever is reaching out to them about this individual who is ill, injured abroad. After making that contact with that individual, we then get in contact with their medical team. So at REVA, we have a medical coordinator 24/7, 365, in which their job is to coordinate all the missions that we have on a daily basis. So we will start the process with sending out a request for medical reports. So our internal team will develop this quote process in which we have a name, a date of birth, a location, and a phone number. Our registered nurse or flight paramedic will get on the phone and they will call this hospital facility and get in contact with whomever is treating this patient. And sometimes we'll actually get in contact with the patient themselves or the family members. At this point in time, we'll do a full medical intake report, do a head-to-toe assessment via the phone, and just kind of see what is going on, what type of team we would need to medevac this patient back home or wherever they need to go, and deem if this patient is indeed fit to fly and it's safe and it will not jeopardize their health. Once we deem that the patient's fit to fly and that our operations center has secured whatever funds, whatever is needed, we will then go down the route of rules and regs in those countries, passports, our customs immigration, CBP, medical paroles, ESTAs, whatever is necessary to safely perform this mission and also do it legally and correct, so that when we land in the United States, we have all paperwork that is necessary for that patient, as well as when we land abroad, we have all the necessary paperwork and clearance so that when we land, we can simply clear customs and immigration, get into an ambulance, go to the medical facility, pick up the patient, bring them back, take off, land back at home. Throughout this entire process, there is nothing short of a ton of communication between our operations center and the facility that's treating the patient, but also the insurance company who has been involved, if there is an insurance company or assistance company that is involved with the process. What are some challenges that we face with medical repatriation? Well, there's a bunch of them, which makes this a very dynamic and always evolving situation on a day-to-day basis. So we can start with the medical aspect. So we face a lot of medical challenges. Here in fixed wing specifically, we face a lot of issues with medical conditions that are affected by gas loss, or they could worsen by being taken out of a controlled environment. Sometimes when a patient is not fit to fly, it doesn't mean they're not going to be fit to fly ever. It means that there needs to be some certain circumstances and certain changes in treatments to make sure that this patient will be fit to fly when we come to get them. In these types of situations, what we will do from a clinical standpoint is we will get on the phone with their clinical team in whatever facility they're at and explain to them, this is what we can handle, this is where we need the patient to be. We will not rush treatment. We will not jeopardize the safety of the patient. We will explain that
Once they get to this point or this is addressed, then we can reevaluate and potentially transport this patient safely. In these situations, we have to make a clinical decision along in conjunction with our medical direction to see if there's something we can change to make them fit to fly, or maybe we have to go into rest and allow this patient to recover just a little bit more and come back in the morning and transport, vice versa. Additionally, some of the hiccups can be weather. Weather doesn't cooperate, just because we need it to cooperate. So we're at the mercy of the weather being great for us. In fixed wing air ambulance, we fly all over the world. So we could be picking up in Mexico in the middle of the night and it's 85, nice and warm. And then we're taking off and taking someone to Canada. And we're in the middle of January, February, and we're negative temperatures with low visibility. So we need to make sure that, one, the airport is still open and then we can land the aircraft there safely, and that there's enough visibility and that we don't have to divert to an airport that's further away. We have documentation, customs, immigration, ESTAs, passports. Things of these nature can actually slow down the process as well if not all the proper documentation is readily available to us. Also, we need to gain approval for our authorities here, especially when we come into the United States. So having that proper paperwork makes the process a little bit easier. Airport regulations in other countries differ from here in the United States. For example, we fly into the Caribbean a lot on a daily basis. And there are many times where airports are not open 24/7 and they close right after dinner time. And we may not be able to get that airport to stay open, which could potentially delay a transport either into the next day or a couple hours. It just depends on the situation. The benefits of medical repatriation on an air ambulance versus a commercial airliner. So when you compare the two, a commercial airliner is very limited in what you can and cannot do on board. Typically, a commercial airliner, you will have a patient that is in a seat and you're sitting right next to them as a medical provider. In some circumstances, they can also offer a stretcher commercial medical escort. Not something as common, but it is available. However, when you're on board these commercial airliners, you are limited to medical resources, such as medical personnel. Typically, it's a one-person crew. You do not have all the medications that you typically see on time on an air ambulance. Additionally, oxygen requirements. So in an air ambulance, i.e. a fixed-wing air ambulance like ours, we are a flying ICU. So every single mission has everything that you would need for an ICU-level patient. Whether it be big drips, unlimited amount of oxygen, ventilator supports, anything you can possibly think of, we have the ability to take care of that patient in the air versus the restrictions of being in a seat on a commercial airliner and having limited resources around you.